don't know who, not only at Tottenham, but in the Premier League, is going to follow up with how much of a gem Ange Postecoglou is and a joy to listen to. But there was a big debate, y'all, going back and forth, especially when you talk to a lot of Tottenham fans. Should Tottenham move on, or should they stick with Ange Postecoglou? He ends the 17-year trophy drought, but they have a historically bad finish in the Premier League table. So I want to get y'all's opinion. Was this the right decision by Tottenham, Nico?
My decision didn't change from the conversation that we had after the Europa League final. I'm not surprised that this happened. I think a better sample size of what Ange has done, especially in this last season at Spurs, is the entire season and not just one game. Almost to the point that it was unsalvageable. Yes, he had injuries. A lot of teams have injuries, right? It's not an excuse, but maybe a reason as to why the project kind of derailed over the 2 seasons that he had in charge. I think he did take a step forward with Spurs, but I think Levy is justified in deciding to go afterwards, especially when the split between the fans occurred. He was very defiant with Spurs faithful. I think also he saw them look at their own club with a different perspective. I think he almost like in a martyrdom walks away, making Spurs fans realize, oh, we can actually achieve big things. So
yes or no, the right decision?
For me, yes.
Yes, okay.
I said it for the beginning.
Okay, I'm just making sure that we got that.
Yeah.
Nige, what about you? Yes or no? Was it the right move?
It was the only decision that was going to happen, yes.
But is it the decision that you would have made?
Yes.
Okay.
Where you look at how they played this season, he only had one style of play. He didn't want to adapt to anything. Right. So where was the plus side that this could get better
until the
next
Europa
year?
League semi-final came around and he saw that he was going up against a team that actually could play some really decent football. He said, all right, Bodeglimt, you keep the ball. I'll go back here. I'll see you out a little bit. And he did it, and he finally adapted, and they won a freaking trophy.
And that's the problem that people argue back to you for next season, because the Premier League is unforgiving. Other teams are competing and getting better as well. So
how do you see it, and how attractive do you think this job is for prospective managers, given how much change has gone on at that position for the last few seasons now?
Oh, I was really enjoying the conversation. It's a shame that I'm here to ruin it. It strikes me that sacking Ange Postecoglou is the safe decision, in that there's a real sort of fear that you may end up in a situation that Manchester United were in early this season gone, where you've realised for certain now that you had the wrong manager and you've got to sack him and waste this entire season as well. Equally, I think there are an awful lot of things that aren't particularly considered as highly as they should be. Postecoglou, his defenders fell apart. I mean, everyone says, oh, every team has an injury crisis, but no one had an injury crisis like Tottenham last season, where they were doing well if they could start 2 of their senior defenders in a big game around Christmas. I mean, as well, he doesn't have a squad that's good enough for what Tottenham aspire to be. Whoever takes charge of this job, they have to buy some new midfielders that are good enough. Those are the real worries. But look, you know, results are what results are. And almost ever since that 4-1 loss to Chelsea early in his first season, the results in the Premier League haven't been good enough. So I see the logic to it. And I think if you look at who the leading contender is to succeed him, it's probably an upgrade in the dugout.
So you think Thomas Frank, you really see it that way? Like, what are your thoughts on him, and what can he bring to this job?
I think Thomas Frank is a fantastic manager and a real upgrade. If you look at what he's done establishing Brentford as a Premier League team, that's no mean feat when Brentford are consistently in the bottom 3 in terms of wages in the Premier League. He's a really adaptable coach as well. We've seen this season he's moved to a 4-3-3 to kind of exploit the absence of Ivan Toney, and has done that really well with great seasons from Mbeumo and Wissa. You know, in the past, he's adjusted to losing David Raya as well. This has been a team that's really struggled with injuries in recent seasons. And I think the thing that Tottenham fans will be worried about losing is the charisma of Ange Postecoglou. Well, I tell you, there's no one that charms me more in press conferences than Thomas Frank. He is a great leader and spokesperson for a club. I mean, look at those figures there. They tell you what a remarkable achievement this has been by Brentford. They keep doing this on the cheap. Of course, the worry is that doing it on the cheap means you tend to play quite defensive and reactive football. But if those of us that saw Brentford in the Championship will tell you that Thomas Frank can coach an attacking game as well. So for me, I really like this appointment. It seems like the likeliest as well. We reported on Friday he was the front runner, and nothing has changed since then, except it's growing more likely that Frank will be the new Tottenham manager. great appointment, and he's going to arrive now with time to make a real impact.
James, as Notorious B.I.G. said, more money, more problems, right? So how do you see Thomas Frank now adapting to going to the next level in managing Tottenham with bigger egos, bigger responsibilities? Do you think he can adjust to that?
That is the key question, and it's one I can't really answer, but I'm fairly confident on. He has dealt with quite a lot of media scrutiny at this club, and big names like Ivan Toney, who, right the way through to his final game before him leaving for Saudi Arabia, Frank was getting a tune out of Ivan Toney, and that is a big name, and depending on who you ask, a big ego too. I mean, the other advantage Frank is going to have is it's a big name club. It's a historically somewhat successful club, but it's a club with young players, a club with a good solid foundation that I think Postecoglou has helped bring through. Lucas Bergvall, Archie Gray, Mickey van der Ven, they're not players that are, long established pros who are going to be hammering on the dressing room every day like you did, Nigel, when you were at Aston Villa, demanding to the manager and demanding explanations. I think he's coming in a good spot for to ease himself up into it's sort of the easiest of the big club jobs, and crucially as well, he kind of arrives when anything goes wrong. It'll be Daniel Levy's fault. The Tottenham fans won't really have forgiven Daniel Levy for sacking Ange Postecoglou, but they're not going to really blame Thomas Frank either. So I think this is a good time for Thomas Frank to make the move.
Benge, I'm surprised that you're this high on Thomas Frank, only because, yes, limited experience per Nigel managing big egos, limited experience managing in Europe, limited experience with big clubs. And I say this because Spurs have been hunting for top four for quite some time, just trying to stay at the top of their game. Granted, 17th is abysmal. You don't want to just do better than 17th. What makes you so sure that he's going to be the right guy for this job? And moreover, the appetite for Spurs to sit in a little bit of a pain point to see this through, because they haven't shown that in any way, shape, or form in any of the recent seasons.
You're completely right, Christine. But I almost think the sort of unwillingness to settle before is going to force that out of Tottenham in this next cycle. They see what they have here, and they have admittedly a window with Champions League football, but it's almost a window that affords them a greater opportunity to rebuild. So they know going into this, and that rebuild, by the way, is happening right across the club. New CEO in Vinay Venkatesham. That there's a likelihood as well that Scott Munn will leave, senior figure in the football setup. Donna Maria Cullen has left. So in terms of timing for Frank, there's a bit of a blank slate, and I think a lot of Tottenham fans are understanding enough to know that the fact that they'll be in the Champions League this season doesn't mean it's going to be a guarantee year in, year out. I think he's in a really good position. As for Frank himself as a manager, I mean, Christine, I know you watch a lot of Arsenal as well, so you'll see how Frank sets up to spoil the day for the bigger clubs, and he does that excellently. He's a really versatile coach. I'm intrigued, and my question is, a coach that's reactive and versatile, how does he adapt to when you have the 6th, 7th, 5th biggest wage budget in the Premier League? That means you'll play a lot of teams that you should just play off the park and beat. Can he adapt to that? I don't know, but I do know that he's a very smart coach and has done a lot of good stuff before. So, benefit of the doubt.
Well, Spurs, they've had 4 different managers between 2019 and 2025. Ange Postecoglou coached 101 games, which is the most of any of those guys that followed Mauricio Pochettino. So I'm interested to see how long the leash really is and if Spurs can really deliver on seeing out this project with Thomas Frank.